take it down. I got to get back up. I got to get it back up. Come on, we can fix this, you know?
It's just ingrained in you.
Yeah, it's just ingrained hard.
You've been around so long doing real community work with a lot of kids, with a lot of the adults. Anybody I know can come to Knox. If there's anything that you think is holding us back in our community, what would that be?
Well, the biggest thing that's holding us back is, this is going to be kind of sad to say, but a lot of times we don't have the money. We don't have the money to, you know, I wish that, you know, my true dream was to be able to just coach without being concerned about money. If this community had more resources, you know, and this is one of the reasons why I opened my gym. You know, I bust my butt to keep it open, but the good Lord has blessed me, you know. There's big people that supported me, you know, that so we can able to pay this $1,400 a month, being a single man and have living by myself, you know, don't have a second income coming in. So a lot of times I had to bust my butt. I get out there and hustle, but that's probably one of the biggest things that I would like to see for the community, some resources. You know, I think about things like this. So when I started wrestling, I didn't start wrestling to save kids from getting in trouble. I started wrestling so kids can go to college for free, like I did. But as I went along, I started seeing things like people would come to me, "Hey, Knox, you did a great job with this kid. This kid is not he's not getting in trouble." You know, I had a guy that wrestled for me, and his mom, one day after practice, was asking, we needed $2 more to pay for the tournament. It was like an $8 tournament. And I needed $2 more to pay for it. And we've been out selling candy bars. And I had a thought come in my mind. I said, man, I'm taking this kid out to sell candy bars and everything else, and all his mama's doing is complaining. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna have her pay these $2. And I had $2 in my pocket. I feel bad about it because, you know, those are things you learn as you go along. But
yeah,
his mom said to me, she says, Coach, I got the best report ever in my kid's son's life. He's the first time he's been on an honor roll. He's leader in the classroom. He's like a changed child since he's been in wrestling. And she says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep it doing because it's going.
Right.
But after that night, I asked her for $2. She made this comment in front of him. She says, I see what this sport is doing for you, but what is it doing for me? It's costing me a lot of money.
Oh my God.
And you should have seen how he pummeled. He gave up on wrestling. He was winning everything. He'd only been wrestling for 2 years. He had moved up with the elite guys, and then he just kind of disappeared from wrestling.
Some of these parents, man.
And you know, it's a means of, you know, they didn't have money. It was tight.
It's tight for a lot of us. So what's one thing about our community that you wish especially the people in power understood?
If we can keep kids busy, they stay out of trouble. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I came home from college because for some reason my parents naturally kept us busy. We were newspaper boys. We were always trying to go down to the rec center, learn how to play checkers, chess. If we can keep the kids busy, you know, put the resources back in, you know, because sometimes I'll be thinking about, man, if the kids want to play basketball, open these schools. I don't care if you close them at 11 o'clock at night. As long as they're cleaning them up afterwards, it keeps kids out of trouble. We're paying taxes, you know.
Right.
We're paying, you know, what the biggest complaint was? Well, the janitors got to go back in there and clean up. But that's why they were hired. The janitors are hired to clean the building up. You know, we can do our part, but if we can keep those doors open, man, I truly believe kids will stay out of trouble.
Yeah, and here's another thing, which is a problem. You know what I mean? So, how have drugs impacted our youth today?
Oh man. So, I had another thought when I was in college. This is gonna sound crazy to you. I had heard about drugs going through Wichita. I had never touched drugs or anything. I got a phone call one night from my parents, and I said, this is before I made the decision to be a wrestling coach. I said, when I get home, I'm gonna wear a brown cape and an orange mask. And I'm gonna run around. I was gonna sit back then. We had telephone booths. I was gonna sit in telephone booths, and when I see somebody with drugs, I was gonna run and jump them and wrestle them down to the
No,
ground.
can't do that.
I know it's crazy, man, but
Get your kids.
that's 1985, and drugs have impact. Some people can. I lost my son to drugs, and there's something that me and you can empathize together. Sympathy means you can feel for us, but empathy means that it's happened to you.
Yeah.
It's happened to both of us, so we understand how we felt. Losing my son.
And he was really active too.
Yeah, he was coming up, but he was dealing with some other stuff. He had some problems with his girlfriend, but the
How
drug.
did that strengthen you up though?
It still hasn't strengthened me. I'm really weak when I really sit back and think about losing my son. I saw you earlier today, and it's like I walked out the house and I looked around and I said, "Man, I miss my son."
Yeah, I do that same thing.
I mean, just out of nowhere, I miss my son. For little things like, man, let me see look at your hair. Look at your beard. Because our goals are that our children finish better than we are.
Yeah.
That's what my goal was, to see my kids. I want my kids better than I am. I want them. That's the same thing with my wrestlers. I want them better than I was.
If you don't mind, elaborating, like how he passed and how could we as a community prevent this, or try our best to prevent this from happening to our other children out here?
Well, when I think about what happened, so my son passed away from fentanyl poisoning. I had to do some investigation myself. I found out some other bad things, that he belonged to some gangs. But he was an active gang member, but they had a club, and the same guys that initiated him into the gang, one of them gave him the drug. They gave him the fentanyl, but he was seeking it.
Yeah.
And
this takes our kids.
That fentanyl is.
It takes them.
It's like I wasn't educated on how to stop him from doing it, because there was a time that he got himself together before he passed away. He got himself together. He was working. He was being responsible. Because I told him, when he was 18 years old, he said, "I'm a grown man now, I can do it." I said, "You're not grown until you become responsible." Maturity, responsibility, and then you got to know the good Lord. And when he lost, he's a young man. He's 36 years old, 35 years old. And I can remember that morning they called me. My daughter called me and said, "Daddy, Toast is on the ground. He's not moving. He's not getting up. He's just laying there." I think back about that day, and I walked in that house. The one thing I should have did is pray before I got there. I just went there and I said, "I can't believe this." And I seen him laying on the ground. They were shocking him, trying to bring him alive. And then they covered him up. And he laid there on that ground for about an hour and 10 minutes or so before they came to pick him up. And I was looking, man, that's my son down there.
Wow.
Man, it was like, and I didn't, at the time, I know it was drug related, but I didn't know have no idea what fentanyl could do,
Yeah.
I later found out with fentanyl, but so I struggled with that, because as a parent, your goal is to make your child, because I can tell you this story about, when I think about it. He said, a guy warned me. He says, "You wait till your son get old enough, he's gonna be getting in trouble." I don't know if he was giving me warning or he cursed me. I said, "Not my son." I was thinking my son's gonna be just like I am. He ain't gonna do no drugs. He ain't gonna be going around selling drugs or anything. And when he got there, man, when I really truly found out that he was doing drugs, I was like helpless. I called people, I called the drug. Well, we can't do anything. I take him to the emergency room. We can't do anything. It can't do anything because it has to be him. And I said, where's the resources at? How can you do it? I still had to go to work. The only way I can do it is maybe, be around him 24/7.
Can't do that.
And, but him and I, we got into it, over the drugs. And I just kind of like threw my hands up. Man, I can't do nothing for you. All I can do is pray for you. I let it go on his way. And then a year and a half later, I get that phone call, and I still play that back through my mind.
So what do we do? Because as you said, I had to deal with that. So, and especially from the rest of the people that I seen go by, all we can do is pray about it, give it to God, right?
Yeah, we pray about it, but we still got work to do. We feel, first of all, my big thing is trying to understand it. I got a little relief when I went around some other people that were talking about fentanyl and they're losing their children, and some of them that died and came back. And they explained to me that a lot of times people that are taking fentanyl, they're trying to get away from it. They're trying to run away from the problem and just clear their mind. So I think that what we need to do is let them know that, hey, you're going to run away from this problem, but that's temporarily. When you come back out of this, if you come back out of this, the problem's still going to be there. There's a better way to work your problem out,
You've given so much of yourself to everybody around here. Everybody, the Knox is a household name, and it's well deserved, given the work that's put in, given the things you do around here. Are you aware of the impact that you've made into this community?
In the recent years, it's been some huge awards given to me. I don't do the sport for awards. I really do the sports for the youth, the kids. There's a lot of gratitude from them and their family as they go through this sport. But the rewards just tell me, the highest reward I got was getting from the NAACP. It was about community. They gave me an award for working in the community. Like I said, when I first started this, that wasn't my plan. I just wanted to give back. Something was given to me. I truly wanted to give back. I wanted to have the opportunity for that feeling that I had that day in my room. Like, look, Charles Knox, you're the homecoming king, the first black homecoming king for your college. I'm like, man, how did I end up here, in this school like this? And so when I got that award from the NAACP, it was like graduating from high school. It felt that way. It's like, man, I've arrived, all my peers that I looked around the room and see all these black folks that look like me, and they was thanking me with this little plaque that I got, and I tell everybody, I got some awards from some other places, but this one means the most to me because it's about the community. As I got older, I can see people that out of my program making a difference. We want champs on the mat, and we want champs in the classroom. But what we really want at the end is champs in the community, guys that are making a difference.
And we all appreciate you to death. If it's anything, can you tell us before we wrap it up? What can you tell us that people may not know about Charles Knox?
Well, Charles Knox is really about, as I grew older, when I was in college, I was thinking about, as a young man, I wanted to be rich. I wanted a lot of money. I thought I would get a job and be able to live life freely and be able to help others with a lot of money. But in truth, what I was really looking for, I was looking for building some relationships. Because, you think about, this is what I tell a lot of people that is grabbing for money. I told my kids this too. I said, you go look at Michael Jackson. He's the richest man in the world. But you know who he left his money to? A monkey. He left it to a monkey because he didn't trust people. If he'd have built relationships, I didn't want to end up being like that, but right. I wanted to be responsible. Still to today, I want to be responsible and be able to be remembered. If somebody just think about me, it says, man, he loved working in this community. I really do. You know, if you look at this room, I can tell you a story like this. So there's basketball courts all over in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
My big vision was that why can't we have a wrestling room in our neighborhood where kids can come in and just wrestle each other
And you built
and get
it up.
better?
You built it up. I see this.
Yeah.
I see these kids come in here. Even my sons, even my other sons, my older sons has been on the Charles Knox mat.
You know, and your son he was a great wrestler too. He had speed, he had the ability.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have had him. You know, you asked me a question earlier. If there's some kid that you could coach, I really would have liked to coach your son because he was so fast.
He was good.
He was really good, and he was tenacious, man. He had a lot of effort, man. You know, and how fast he was. I just thought he just didn't get a really good enough high school coach that would take him where he need to go. You know.
Well, he went to Southeast, Shawnee, and KC. He went down there, and then when he went to college, they was wanting to get him for gymnastics because he could flip and do all the stuff that I never could do.
And that's why I tell you, that's why I say he's very athletic. If you see a guy can flip and move his body that way, cartwheels, aerials, those guys are really, really good athletes. And then wrestling is perfect because those guys only weigh about 140 pounds when they graduate.
Right.
You know, so they can't play football, you know, but they could possibly play basketball if they got a good jump shot. But if they can move their body like that, and then they get the right coaching, they can teach them how to cartwheel over people.
He was a good wrestler, and he was really athletic.
And he was a leader too, man. He was like a sponge. When he came around, all the people would come around him. That's why I said, I know this guy's special.
Yeah.
You know, he was like my son. He's like, people would come around him and he'd do things like.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, I just.
How could you, what do you want people to know? You are writing a book or you've wrote a book?
Yeah, I wrote a book, and it's a really good book. You know, I just haven't shared it with people yet, but I keep putting chapters out on Facebook about it, you know, about one of my favorite chapters talks about the candy bar. And the candy bar was really special to our team, for Team of Hard Knocks. It allowed us to do things that other clubs were doing, but, you know, sometimes the field ain't level.
Facts.
You know,
the candy bar.
some teams that could do a tournament, you know, and make $80,000 off a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to do a tournament, and we made, one year we did a tournament, we made like $450. When another club makes $8,000. So my biggest thought about that is, most people want to be the best. Who do you got to be?
The best.
The best. We were team state champions for 5 years. We were runner-ups for 6 or 7 years. So in 12-year span, we were trying to do tournaments, and nobody would support us. They would go around us. And one of the reasons is because we added color to the sport in the state of Kansas. It was all plain until I got in there. I didn't know that, but we added the color in there. So minorities started wrestling. You know, since that time, there's another club that started in here in Wichita around us. And so there's 2 clubs that are wrestling with black kids, a majority of black kids.
Now, okay, so you writing your book, you've been coaching for years, you've been a real light in our community, helping with kids, hundreds, thousands of kids. Now, has any of these programs been threatened by maybe any of our government now? You know, you know, I'm concerned because, you know, we really depend on donations. Mm-hmm. Our club really depends on donations, and you know, sometimes your donations come from tax write-off. Right. You know, so people have to make a choice, either give it to the government or give it to a nonprofit. Nowadays, with them cutting those taxes back, they don't have to give that money away to the government. So I'm hoping right now, I don't know what it's feeling, but I am concerned, you know. Well, maybe you could tell anybody on there how to reach you. Tell them about your Cash App if they do want to support the Team of Hard Knocks. And we'll wrap it back up the next interview.
So Team of Hard Knocks, let me just kind of capitalize and try to give some impressive things. The most impressive thing that we've ever done as a team, in an 8-year period, we sent 7 guys to the University of Oklahoma on scholarships, just to the University of Oklahoma. You know, you just think about that. What other program out of Wichita, youth basketball, that sent 7 in an 8-year period to a Division I school? We had others going to the University of Minnesota. We had guys going to Cal State Bakersfield or Cal State Pauley, South Dakota State, Nebraska. I might have said Nebraska, but then we had kids going all over to junior colleges, wrestling in that little short 8-year period. And here today now, we've got a guy that's coaching at a Division I school. We were 5-time state champions, 7-time runner-ups, and we've provided a whole bunch of opportunity for our youth. So if you would like to help us, you know, I talked about that candy bar. I told you about that candy bar. I'm gonna give you one example about that candy bar. One day a young man walked up to me 2 weeks away and said, "Coach Knox, I want to go to the world trials for my age group," which was 16 and under. And I laughed at him. And he said it again, and I laughed again. He said it a third time, and I remember my mom said, some people say three things, it's time to listen. And I told her, I said, man, it's 2 weeks. It's gonna cost us $1,000 to go there. He said, Coach Knox, you said anytime there's a will, there's a way. And I just took a deep breath and I said, okay. So we went and bought 2,000 candy bars for 50 cents in that 2 weeks, and we earned enough money to go to that tournament. My wrestler that day, he beat the future high school wrestler of the year, high school wrestler. At that time, they were sophomores and juniors. And he won that match, and later on became a coach at a college. So, you know, those are some of the highlights. And if you'd like to help out with us, want to buy a candy bar from us, you can read us at my Cash App is Doolittle61, Doolittle61. Or you can call me at 316-806-6289. And you can use that number also for Cash App. And just support us and continue to watch over and pray for us.
Team of Hard Knocks, man. That's dope. We appreciate the time, man, and we'll be back to give more interviews and updates from Coach Knox, and watch how the Team of Hard Knocks is gonna take this show on the road. And you know, if anybody want to come in and get their kids trained up or come and have their kids,
3940 East 13th.
That's one more time for them.
3940 East 13th, right next to Jermaine's Barbershop.
Shop. They gonna call it Jermaine. All right, well, Knox, man, we appreciate everything, and you know, we'll see you again.
Well, thank you for spending the time with me. Thank you.
Man, this song, we good.
All right.